go live, I just wanted to let everybody, I have to.
Lori, do you have any idea if Larry was planning on joining us?
He was driving from Atlanta and he thought he was going to make it.
Okay. All right. So he'll be here, just not right to the beginning, I guess.
Well, I would have thought by now. If not, yeah, that was his plan.
You were live and ready.
All right. I want to call the November board meeting of Sea Pines Property Owners Association to order. Mr. Secretary, do we have a quorum?
We indeed do have a quorum, and so first order of business, or offer as a resolution the approval of the board meeting minutes for our meeting of September 26, 2023.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And there he is. Did you hear your ears burning?
Sorry. All right.
Welcome. Anyway, good morning again, and thank you all for joining us, which is our final board meeting of the year. So I just, in realizing that, I think it's a perfect time for us to go back and assess the year at a very top level and evaluate the work that we've done for our members. Kind of a very brief good, bad, and ugly situation. So the board is going to be meeting at the end of the month to discuss this. We will be having a 2024 visioning session as well. So if you have any ideas, any thoughts that you would like us to consider, just email info@seapinespoa.com and we'll take a look. In the meantime, three pretty major items, I think. One is the good. And yesterday, you all may have heard Steve Boardwell at the CSA board meeting announce the results of the referendum to amend the 1973 covenants. And the result of the referendum was almost 95% of the votes were in favor of this amendment. So people might say, yeah, and Lori's happy. And people might say, why is it so good, that we can now use new technology such as email to vote and represent our signatures? Because, this is kind of an obvious thing. The obvious savings from not having to use the post office and printers is a good part. But I think because it's the first time that the Sea Pines POA or the resort are aware of where property owners have petitioned the resort to run a referendum, which is outlined as a right in the covenants. It's the first time that we've seen some real change come, and I don't want to be facetious, but it's coming outside of the legal system. We actually followed the process, and it worked. It's a great example of what can be accomplished when all the parties at the POA, inside Sea Pines, are aligned. So that's good. But the best part of the good, I think, was the whole process and the how. While we at POA may have shepherded this process, all the property owners participated. All of your board members, as well as others, participated in the petition drive. The resort was 100% transparent with the POA, ensuring that there were no missteps on either part. To be honest, we were feeling our way through this because the covenants are not particularly detailed in this, and we erred on the side of caution every single time. And kudos all the way around on this, particularly the resort, but also to Keith, who was our project manager. And I'd like to share a list of what he volunteered to do with you, but we would be here till Saturday. But anyway, so kudos to Keith. Next is kind of the good news, bad news. And that is that we received overwhelmingly positive feedback and attendance for our third Tuesday speaker series. I think that qualifies as a complete success. Lori Willinghoff, our board member up there on the screen, her planning and the speakers that she invited were just incredible. They were fantastic. They shared so many wonderful stories that are not written in places, especially what happened on Charles Frazier's wedding day was one that comes to mind. And it was just, it was about their contributions. Even some were talking about today's events. But the bad news, and the one thing I think that really hurts us in general, because I think we all have a great respect for institutional knowledge, is that we have not captured this for our records. Our $50 per member dues only covers so much. So in 2024, we will be looking for a sponsor to underwrite sophisticated audio and video equipment that can help us capture these valuable evenings, but they can also help us have a board meeting, have people attend, open it up, but also use Zoom, blah, 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 and have, everything all connected at once. Lastly, our member dues billing was the ugly, and it was the worst in 5 years that I've seen as president. And it was a result of what I call our startup database management and the things that we didn't foresee 5 years ago when we separated from CSA and ended our CSA management contract and set up an independent operating business model. So the questions we were running into is, how do we handle multiple owners of properties? What happens if someone forgets they joined and then joins again, but uses a different name, and then joins again and uses a different email address? The what ifs are absolutely endless. It can give any sane person a migraine. So we are painfully aware of the issues now, and a new task force has been formed, and under the leadership of Carrie DeVillette,
Sorry about that.
to figure out the solution. The task force is presenting to the board after today's board meeting, and it's unknown right now whether we will need to start from scratch to rebuild our member database with all new information. But I can give you a heads up right now, and that is when we go through our membership renewal process for next year, we will be asking for more information than is typical, and we would ask you to please work with us while we establish a clean database. An example would be our newsletter, which has an 80% click-through rate, and that click-through rate is absolutely unheard of in the industry, it's being that high. So I think it's a testament to the quality of our teamwork. So I'm going to make a real leap of faith here and figure that everyone would like to read it. So that means we need everybody's emails, and not just the emails, but they need to be sorted correctly. That means we have to be able to distinguish which email is the primary member, and that would be the one that Easy Vote sends their email to for voting, and who would be other household members. So wish us luck. We'll be working very hard on that project. Also, this being the last board meeting of the year, and good, bad, and the ugly, there's also the sad, and that is that we have 3 very valuable board members that are rotating off, and I just want to publicly say how much we've appreciated their work. Greg Thompson, who has been our secretary, and he's also been our vice president. I sit down and I talk to him, and it's like a trip to the shrink. I mean, he can just, he's just so good at pulling
And my rates
together.
are low.
And his rates are low. I mean, it's a very valuable thing, and we're going to miss it. John Surrey, who was our treasurer, and talk about cooler heads when we're sitting there going, well, we need this, we need that. And he goes, well, let's work that budget. Let's look at the invoices. Are they coming in? I mean, we can sleep at night. We have a financial strategy for our reserves. There are things that we did not have before John came on board. So thank you, John. And Lee Stevens, who is rotating off the board, but is also running for the CSA board. So, a little, a little plug there. We will miss him, but we certainly hope that his talents will be applied to quote the greater good, which is the broader behind the gates. I call it governance, whether they do or not, but
And it's
So-
good to have a friend on the CSA board.
It's always nice to have a friend on the CSA board. So thank you, Lee, and good luck in the election. There is so much more, but now is not really the time. I hope all of you enjoy your holidays and your families. In our family, Arnie the dog gets more Christmas presents than anybody else, but you know, I don't know what it's like in your house. And one last thing, because it's my last board meeting as your president too, it's been my pleasure to serve you as president this year. And I hope that you have gotten as much out of it as I have. So thank you very much. And speaking of Mr. Surrey and financial reports.
Well, thank you, Paula, thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate that. And it's been such an honor working with all of you. So, all right, let's dive in. So this is the third quarter report. So this is the quarter ending in September. Looking at the balance sheet, we have about 189,000 in bonds and fixed income, 168,000 in cash,
Yeah,
and about 65,000. Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I was saying 189,000 in bonds and fixed income, and 168,000 in cash, as well as 65,000 in our operating account. So that leaves us with about 425,000 in total assets. So as a reminder, we invest in high quality investments with a short-term maturity, 3 to 5 years, doing like in an investment grade ladder. And our cash is in a U.S. Treasury fund, taking advantage of the high interest rates right now. So looking at our budget variance, our income year to date is 145,000 from membership dues, bringing our total income to 158,000. And looking at our top three expenses, I'll go through the top three. The first is our management fees that are paid to IMC. The second, communication services, of course, and then our property and liability insurance, which is the directors and officer insurance for the board. And just to break down the communication services, since that amount is the highest of our expenses, over half of that is due to printing and postage. So for our referendum, the annual meeting, the membership drive, so a significant amount being outreach to the community. So that leaves us with 110,000 in total expenses, and that leaves us then with $47,500 in excess revenue for year to date. And that is.
And I just wanted to make sure for the people that are viewing that this is in the board package. We published it a week ago for you all.
Yes, it's in the board package.
But the question is, where do you think we will finish fourth quarter for the year? Will we be close to budget?
Yes, I think we will be close to budget. Right now, we're $50,000 above with excess revenue. I do see significant expenses coming in the fourth quarter, but I think it'll give us an opportunity to reassess for next year. So one of the projects that Larry and I have been talking about is breaking down our budget into further categories so that we can define some of the upcoming projects that we've talked about. So I think we will be fine finishing out this year, but I do expect significant increase in expenses next year. But I think a lot of this will be able to be outlined in a more detailed budget for next year.
That's great. Yeah, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Okay. Kathleen is up with the management report.
Good morning, everybody. So
Lisa?
since last September's board meeting, there are 2,920 members. Calls have been minimal and 192 emails were received. 2,913 members have received either an easy vote online ballot or a ballot via mail. The quorum requirement is 20%, which means 583 ballots must be returned. We've already received 560 completed ballots through Easy Vote and 77 paper ballots for a total of 637. We have met quorum, but encourage all members to submit their ballots by December 1st, which is when the voting closes. Election results will be distributed to members on December 15th. If you have not yet received your ballot, please email info@cpinespoa.com or call us at 843-422-7648 and we will send you a replacement ballot.
Thank you very much. Lee, POA, sorry, ARB.
Not a lot new. ARB again continues to meet every Tuesday. Again, I've mentioned this lately, continue to see tear downs, which is a relatively new experience here in Sea Pines. So where we used to see new single family residents going up on empty lots, now when we go to do a site visit, there's a house there that's going to be torn down. In fact, we saw one yesterday. So that's kind of a new experience, and with the age of the houses, some of the houses in Sea Pines, I think that's just going to escalate over the next few years as people realize they'd like to have more space. This is in the packet, but if you total up all of the applications that we've received this year for either new homes, additions, alterations, pools, and commercial, we've handled 767 to date. And again, we meet every Tuesday, so our typical agenda is somewhere between 12 and 18 properties that we review their submission and make a decision on whether can be approved or whether there are issues that we either send back to the architect or to the owner, depending on who made the submission.
So
Thank you.
Oh, I've got a question. So it seems like if my math is right, it's about 15% of properties in Sea Pines are going through either renovation or construction. How is that trend over the last 5 years? Is it high?
I'd have to look into that, but I would say our agendas are not any more full than they've been in the past. You know, some of these can be small things. Anything you do to your exterior home goes to ARB. So it could be painting, it could be a new roof.
Lighting.
Pardon?
Lighting.
Lighting,
all that.
you know, I think as you see in the report, we've done 18 pools, that number's up. And continuing to go up because realtors tell those who rent that they can get more rent if they have a pool. But overall, I wouldn't say that our agendas are any more full than they've been in the past.
Thanks.
Sure.
Lee, do you all keep any data on how many passes it takes to get a home approved? You know, like is it the average 3, 5, 7? Because I'm sure there's back and forth between people who want to do something and the ARB's interpretation of what it is they want to do. And it'd be an interesting data point to look at, because the minor stuff, you know that lighting's that's not a good fixture. That's kind of a low level noise. I would think
new
building
homes,
a house or
new homes typically come in with initially with a can't think of the term at the moment, but
Blueprint?
no, the first pass is to get an idea of whether the drawings are acceptable. So they're not looking for a final approval. And then if we say, yeah, it looks like something we could approve. A lot of it's based on, particularly on new homes, on ratio, size of house to size of lot. The target is 1 to 3. We saw one yesterday that was 1 to 6, which was amazing. The size of the lot and the house that the people wanted to build. We were surprised that they weren't building a bigger house, particularly. So, you know, anecdotally, I would say on a new home, probably 3 passes before they get final approval. There's always outliers.
Yeah, it'd be good to.
Yeah, I'll
So I
that's a
think
good
there's
question.
a conversation in the community that, oh, it's so hard to get through the ARB and you got this, and it'd be nice for you all to be able to say, well, actually, if you count the preliminary as not an approval, but as a step in the process, and then maybe there's an average of 2 more visits, or somebody says, you know, it took forever to get through.
My experience is, and I did this 3 years ago, was maybe 2 at the most. But I also had the advantage of having the architect on the ARB board.
Uh-huh.
who knew what who really knew what the regulations were and what would and wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So that helps.
And that's a good point, because when we see an out-of-state architect, I would tell you that the process takes longer. Sure. Because they don't know
Not
the
familiar
state
with it.
lines
Right.
standards.
Yeah. No. Great, thanks.
Because this has been a topic of conversation, would it pay Lee and Paula to remind our members how the Sea Pines POA fits into the ARB?
Sure. The ARB is made up of 9 members that are appointed by CSA, by the Sea Pines property owners, and by the resort. The Sea Pines property owners appoints 2 people to the board, and each appointee serves a 3-year term and can serve up to 2 consecutive 3-year terms. CSA also appoints 2 members to the ARB, and the Sea Pines property owners and CSA share an alternate that they jointly appoint, and then the Sea Pines Resort has 3 seats that they appoint people to, plus 1 alternate.
We have our alternate term, the alternate is a
Alternate's a
1-year
1-year term,
term.
yes, right.
So, right now it's Chuck McCray.
Mhm.
And so by the end of the year, Sea Pines, CSA and POA will have figured out what the appointee will be for the alternate. The ARB, just for the record, is a completely, it's a standing committee of the Architectural Review Corporation, which is a completely independent nonprofit private corporation. It is not associated with CSA in any way, shape, or form. Again, it's an intersection of the resort, CSA, and Sea Pines POA. The ARC has some responsibilities, but they have no influence whatsoever in what ARB does in approving the plans as they come through.
Right.
Kind of a unique
Very
organization
unique.
arrangement.
Very-
The
Organization
ARC
design.
sets the budget and is
Or
responsible for the
approves
money.
it, really approves it. I mean, ARB knows what they need.
Yeah.
But, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Communications, Lori.
Let's see if I can keep from coughing. The next speaker series is November 21st. And it will be featuring none other than Hilton Head's own journalist, editorial writer, and all-around good guy, David Lauderdale, who I think is known to most, if not all. And he has chosen a topic that is just going to be fantastic. He is going to compare and contrast the personalities and activities and thought processes of Charles Fraser as compared to Walt Disney and vice versa, which I think will be really interesting. I want to make sure everybody is reminded that this speaker series on the 21st of November, starting at 5 o'clock sharp, will be held at Providence Presbyterian Church, not at our usual Sea Pines Community Center. I want to thank Providence Presbyterian and especially Larry Holdren for helping make that possible. And we will be joined hopefully by a larger group of folks because we have opened it up to the members of Providence Presbyterian to attend if they so desire, which I think will be great. And then we take December off, and the next speaker series events begin in January. For anyone who wants to see the entire slate of this season, which runs through May, all you need to do is visit seapinespoa.com, and you can see the complete calendar of First Tuesday Speaker Series events. As well, the Communications Committee of one. So should anybody listening to this wish to volunteer, I promise to make it fun. But we will be, I guess that's the royal we, will be putting out a newsletter here soon, reminding people about holiday things and speaker series events and other things, and especially helping kind of succinctly retrace from the nascent beginnings of the concept of joining the 21st century with electronic voting to the point where we are now, having resoundingly approved it. We're just going to sort of trace how that was birthed inside the Sea Pines POA and allow you to see how cakes are baked. Anything else, Paula, gang?
Just for newsletter content, I think Greg's report might be good to include. We haven't gotten there yet. I don't want to spoil his thunder, but.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I'm going on mute because I'm going to cough.
Good job. Great timing, by the way. Carrie.
The IT, okay. Thank you, Paula. So good morning, everyone. As Paula mentioned in her earlier remarks, we have, as a board, begun to look into some of the challenges the existing technology that we're using has been posing on not only this board, but previous boards. And so late summer, we organized a task force to review our needs going forward and to evaluate our current system to make a determination whether it might be able to be updated to meet these needs or look at other options, other applications that might take its place. And so we're in the process of doing that. We've identified at least 2 separate applications that we will be reviewing. No decision has been made. It probably won't be made until the end of the year. But the most significant challenge really is just the database itself. And so that's one of the things that we're working through right now is just identifying what we can do to stabilize that and make our membership renewals as easy as possible going forward, as well as other communication issues. And so that's really the update. Any questions?
Steve, did I still?
Only a little bit. But regarding the referendum update, which is the next topic, it certainly pays for both Paula and Lori to acknowledge the success of the referendum, because as a reminder, again, it was the first time this has ever been done under the 1974 covenants. So it pays to celebrate that repeatedly. I would say that a few things that I would supplement Paula's report. We received some information from the resort that allowed me to calculate that approximately 55% of the participating property owners, as we calculated it, starting the petition process, cast a vote. 55%. So that's pretty amazing. It shows great participation and interest by the community. As Paula mentioned, 95% approval rate. Remarkable. Some would say, well, it was a pretty non-controversial amendment suggestion, and that is true in and of itself. But people being people, it's hard to get more than 3 people to agree on anything anymore. So getting 95% to agree is pretty remarkable. Understanding that is the highest rate for any amendment. This was the 6th. The previous one being the 5th amendment, which had about an 86% approval rate. So being 95 is pretty remarkable. I want to reemphasize one thing that Paula did mention, but it really pays to make sure that our members and hopefully the broader Sea Pines community understands the openness and active support of the Sea Pines Resort for this amendment. From the very first time that Paul and I went to meet with Steve Birdwell to say, hey, our Sea Pines POA board is thinking about this. We would like to do this. We understand that you obviously under the covenants have the ability to veto it. So we want to make sure that you are comfortable with this right from the beginning. And they were right from the get-go, very open, enthusiastic supporter of this. We did a lot of work up front to agree on what the language would look like so that everyone understood it and supported it. Again, the transparency was phenomenal. So it's important to know the Sea Pines Resort in moving this along, because once the agreement was reached and once the Sea Pines POA and all the volunteers collected all the signatures to make this work and happen, once we notified the resort at the end of July on the 25th that we had achieved the 10% goal plus, it was entirely in their court. So they had to undertake the administration of the referendum voting process, which they had never done before, because the first 5 amendments had all been administered by CSA, because they had the database, they had the capability, and said the staff, blah, blah, blah. So this is the first time that the resort has actually administered an amendment, and it was not a small cost to them. And yet they never flinched. They never said, no, boy, that doesn't feel good. We don't want to do that. And I will just tell you, I won't give you a number because it's not appropriate, but it was a meaningful amount of money that they had to shell out to administer this vote. And so a great amount of thanks on behalf of the Sea Pines POA board, and I think the entire community, to the resort for their openness and willingness to do this.
If I could just add one thing.
Absolutely.
And they did all of this in 60 days.
They did.
I mean, they had to figure it out and then do it. And they only had, per the covenants, they only had 60 days to do it.
So great kudos to them. I just would like to make sure our membership and the broader Sea Pines community understands what a great partner the resort was in this whole process.
Thank you very much. The next up is legal. There's not a lot going on in legal right now. However, we do have the appeals that are going on with the referendum lawsuit. And that will occur in the Fourth Circuit, which is in Richmond, and they have ordered oral arguments for the pending pending appeals. And the oral arguments are tentatively scheduled for January 23rd through the 26th. So if anybody wants to go to Richmond, I don't think they Zoom.
It's a nice town.
It's a very nice town. It's a very
But
nice
January.
town. Hollywood Cemetery is pretty, I live there, it's pretty special. But anyway, so that's the legal update. Greg, community standards formally launched.
Thank you. I'll keep this brief. I guess the first thing I'd like to say is that we're seeing an uptick in the number of sightings by our land use monitors, our standards now called standards monitors. As of this date, we've issued 1,454 citations to folks. That compares to 460 last year. And I think it's important to note that we've doubled the number of people out looking in the community to see where properties might be in non-compliance. The good news about all this is that we're right now at 93, seems to be a good number, 93 plus 93% compliance. So that means when folks get a notification that they have a deficiency in their property in some way, shape, or form, they respond within the time frame that they are asked to comply. So I think that the good news is, yeah, we're asking people to do things that maybe they didn't think they needed to do or didn't know that they needed to do. But the overall effect is we're going to have a much more attractive community for all of us to live in. Second thing is that one of our troubled properties that has kind of been a focus of attention for this group 5 years is in the process of being sold. It may have already closed. And so good job on the part of CSA to keep feet to the fire, so the costs will be reimbursed at the point of closing, and the cost to both the POA and CSA from a legal standpoint were not insignificant. So Dana would be very happy. In fact, I'll send her a note, let her know that that's been handled.
On that note, I've had two occasions to speak with the new owner, the prospective owner. If you may remember, I made a comment at our last meeting. Does the new owner know what he's getting into? And he called me.
Definitely no.
And he definitely knows, and he's very happy to be solving a problem that existed in that neighborhood. So,
That's her.
Very nice gentleman. So the other thing I want to report on is if you watched the CSA board meeting yesterday, there were a number of things, motions that were approved. One of them was to adopt the new community standards. And we had a task force dedicated to reviewing the standards. Several changes were made. Only a couple, I would say, would be of any real significance. I mean, there's a low lying, thing where the document still referred to the land use monitors, and so everything now has been changed to be in conformance with the community standards. So the other thing that we did was try to make the language more friendly in each of the rules. So just an example would be lawns shall be routinely cut and maintained to ensure grass height at 6 inches. And we changed that to lawns shall be routinely cut and lawns, this is misspoken. Well, now it says lawns shall be kept in a neat and attractive appearance, or words to that effect. It's not on my chart right. So we've made the rules a little simpler to understand, easier to implement for the community standards monitors. Probably one of the headlines that you may have heard about is the CSA board yesterday approved the change for leaf blowers. In terms of decibels allowed, and it's going to go to 65 decibels on January 1 of 2026. So the reason for the delay in going to that lower standard is to give landscapers and commercial folks a chance to put the purchase of new equipment in their budget, and so they know what to replace failing equipment with the standard. The other thing is there was a rule in there that said you couldn't have bikes and beach furniture or beach toys, etc., out except between the months of April and September. Couldn't be in public view. And we've changed that now to say that really we don't want to have bicycles and beach lawn furniture, beach toys and chairs in plain view. They should be put in a way that they're not visible from the street. One more is the short-term renters and guests of short-term renters are only permitted to park vehicles in the garage, carport, or on a driveway of the property. Parking is not permitted on any landscape surfaces, including the front, back, or side yards. And this is something I think we've seen a number of violations with, and so it's a little bit of a tightening from what the pre-existing rule was.
and in alignment with the town's
With the
ordinance.
With the town, correct. Thank you, Lee. So that is my report. I think the committee did a great job, and I thank them for their efforts. This has all obviously gone through legal review and now been accepted by the CSA board.
Thank you.
Hey, Greg,
Yeah.
Sorry.
how do they enforce decibels?
They check the equipment. So there's the serial number and the model number of the equipment. They can look up and it tells you what it's certified at.
Who do you call?
When
Who
they
do
get
you,
their business decal, when they get their business decal,
Yeah.
they have to attest to the equipment that they're using. And
I understand, but just like if it's loud, who do you call? Because how do they know who it is if they don't come immediately? I
Yeah,
guess.
so it would be great if people have a problem, call the standards monitor or shoot them an email. In this case, I think you ought to call them because you need to get somebody there, as you said, quickly to see who it is and be able to identify them and their equipment. And so we'll get the monitors over there, and then the monitor will then look at the equipment, get the model number and look it up and see whether it's in conformance or not.
So are we going to be phoning them instead of emailing them?
I think you can, I mean, you can do either one.
Well, but there's not a phone number.
Well, I think you could, you know, I would say you can call security. That would be another way to, I mean, if it's, you know, if the landscaper is there and they don't come on a regular basis, the only way to resolve the problem is to get somebody there quickly. And I would call security, and if they can get somebody there or get the monitor there, they'll do that, the dispatch person.
or get the name of the landscaper.
I guess we all have to understand what 65 is, you know? I mean, I'm not trying to
All right.
put holes in this necessarily, but you know, if it sounds loud to me, is that the decibel level or isn't it? You know, I hate to.
Yeah, I think it's fine for any property owner who thinks a landscaper has equipment that's non-compliant to get the name of the landscaper and the day, if it's a regular, you know, service of a property, and give that to the land use, the community standards monitor. And if they can't catch them this week, they know they come on Wednesdays and they come in the morning or the afternoon. And I think that's the best way to get it straight. I mean, the good news is this is not like a fire. You don't have to get them there like, you know. So if you don't get them this week, you can get them next week. The other problem we have, it's the same kind of thing is landscapers who use the neighborhood waste areas and put their stuff in there, and they're not supposed to do that. They're supposed to take it over to the recycling center. So if anybody sees landscapers doing that, it would be great if you could provide the help and identify them, and we'll take care of it.
Yeah, and that is more easily done than because you can just snap a picture and send it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't snap a picture of decibels.
Unless it's the same guy every week. Got that.
Yeah, thank you, Greg.
Yeah.
Just a few thoughts, because I just can't resist. We have so many new property owners, and I'm not sure that a lot of them are aware that the efforts to enforce a decibel ban on leaf blowers was initiated by the POA. And it was probably about 4 years ago, we put a recommended policy together and sent it over to the CSA. We left enforcement to them because that was the heavy lifting. And there has been a decibel 75, we recommended 65 from the get-go. There has been a 75 decibel limit since last July that has been in effect. So it's a process. But anyway, and congrats for going to 65.
Well, thank you. Just one other thing. I think it's important for people to take the time to go on the CSA website and take a look at these rules. I think a lot of the times people get a notification that they're not in conformance, and their reaction, well, I didn't know I was supposed to do it this way or that way. So we made I think a good effort to simplify, condense the document. It's still 7 or 8 pages at least. But it's important that people know what the rules are.
Is it up yet, Greg, on the website, the new one?
I think it's going to be up by Friday, but if it's not up now, it'd be.
But there are rules up now.
Yeah.
But the new version will come out, I think, on Friday.
Sam says Friday.
How are they gonna enforce this bike thing? Because all the bikes get left out in front every week.
Yeah, well, that's the monitor's got to do that now.
I mean, are they talking to the bike shop people? Because where are they gonna leave the bikes?
Yeah. We meet with, I say we, they meet with property management and bike rental companies, and it's an ongoing issue, but you know, some folks are great and they have a little bike rack that they put beside their house or out in the yard behind bushes. Other other renter, property owners that rent, haven't figured out that they need to do that.
You gotta start someplace.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah.
Another thought, again, because I just can't resist, is the problem property. Greg noted a lawsuit. It was the efforts of the POA, and our offer to split the cost of the lawsuit that enabled, the thing to begin and go. That has been in litigation for, I don't know. I mean, 4 or 5
Been in
years.
litigation for 5, it's been in litigation probably 3 years.
And I mean, and literally the first thing we had to do before we could even start litigation, and again, this is your POA working for you, is to find the property owner and where they are. And that was no easy task. So it went from there. So maybe, John, a note for the budget for next year is there'll be a little credit coming.
Yeah, exactly. Good point, Paul.
Yeah, for the lawsuit. So anyway, thank you.
And that property, as far as being a problem property, goes back at least 10 years. And not until we had rules that could be enforced were we able to get to the point.
Yep.
And then after trying to enforce the rules and still getting no response from the owner is when litigation started.
Membership committee, Lori,
Yes,
you are busy.
well, we are getting busy. Paula covered most of this in her opening statement. I would just add that we are in the process of creating information to be mailed out as a request to pay your dues. Because of the problems we had last year, and because Carrie's team really can't do anything immediately until things are approved, we will still be very old school with what you receive in January. Our initial request will be a print letter mailed to all the property owners. So you can expect that sometime the first week or two in January. And of course, we hope you'll join or renew. The only other thing I would point out that we're working on is in the first quarter of 2024, we'd like to develop some type of program that welcomes new property owners. We don't know what that will be yet, whether it will be a mailing, a package, a visit, but we would like to touch base with people when they first move in and welcome them. And I think that's it, unless you have questions.
Thank you very much. That in no way covers the amount of work that's gonna be going on in licensing, but it's
like the rock on the water, right? We're just going across the pond.
like, really, okay. But yeah, but Lori's got it under control, so there we go. Thank you. Nominating committee, I think their job is done, but no?
Yes, although,
Yes and that, okay.
as Lisa mentioned in her remarks, voting is well underway and will continue until midnight on December 1. So if you haven't voted already, please do so at your earliest convenience. As a reminder, our 3 candidates are Gary Glass, Laura DeLong, and Larry Holdren, who's been our advisory board member for the last year. So that's process is winding down, to Paula's point, but it is never too early. And so if you have suggestions of individuals you would like to recommend or nominate for consideration to the Sea Pines POA board, or if you would like to volunteer on one of our committees, please send an email to info@seapinespoa.com with your suggestion, and we will certainly get back to you and take that under very, very strong consideration.
Thank you very much. Self-nominations are welcome too.
Absolutely.
Is there any unfinished business?
Just one piece following up on your comment. The board on November 29th will be undertaking a several hour effort of a visioning and retreat to look ahead to 24 and even a little bit beyond, to set our work streams for 24 and beyond. So again, if you have any thoughts or suggestions of areas of emphasis that you would like your Sea Pines POA board to consider and build into those work streams, please again send a note to info@seapinespoa.com, and we'll bake that into our agenda for the meeting on the 29th.
Thank you. New business. Normally we adjourn to take questions, but Lisa, you only have one question, right? Fritz Smith, right? Mr. Fritz Smith asked, who will be taking Lee Stevens' place? So I'm on the ARB.
I won't be leaving you.
And the answer is, Lee's not going anywhere on the ARB.
Right.
And if it was misunderstood and who will be taking Lee's place on the board, that's occurring right now on the election, so. But thank you very much. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Before you do, if I could, this is my last meeting, so I'd just like to thank everybody that I've served with. I would tell you that I'm thrilled with the direction that the Sea Pines Property Owners has taken over the last 3 years under Paula's direction in separating us from CSA, more of a standalone organization. Obviously, I think it's obvious to a lot of our members that we have their back, and that's an ongoing process as we start to put everything together regarding membership and all that. But I was glad to be part of it, and I wish you all the best. And hopefully, if I'm elected to the CSA board, I'll be in a position to support some of the things going forward.
Yay. All right. So thank you very much, Lee.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Yeah. To all of you.
And for Greg. Yeah, there we go.
It's been fun. It's been fun.
Good.
Just kind of echo what Lee said. It's been a pleasure to be with you all and to accomplish the things that we have. I think that the referendum process and its passing is, yes, it's a first for us and a first for the community, but I think it's a real milestone in terms of verifying the fact that when people feel something is important and leadership hears them in terms of what's important and organizes an effort with capable people, a lot of things can happen. And I sometimes hear people say, nothing gets done, or you can't change anything here. And I think that we, not to pat ourselves on the back, but we collectively have said, no, that's not the case. You can. And if you follow the rules and work together and get the support of the resort and CSA, I think there's a lot of good days ahead. And so I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. And
Who's going to take over as a psychiatrist, though?
I know. Who's going to be our shrink?
I don't know. My rates are low. We did a 7%.
Okay. All right.
Anyway. All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Second. All those in favor? All right. Thank you.